Welcome to our podcast called Parents of Dragons, a podcast where two people who don't know a lot or anything about Game of Thrones talk about the most recent episode. I'm your host, Allison Judge.
And I'm Lex Judge.
And let's dive right into this bloodbath that was this evening.
Yeah, we got a real crazy episode. I think everybody knew that it was going to be crazy. There was going to be lots of deaths, but let's talk about our predictions. We kind of knew that they were setting up for a lot of characters to die. So I thought that Sam was going to die. I thought that Jaime was going to die. And then
mine was the blacksmith and Brienne.
Yeah, and so
I guess we really don't know for sure how this turned out.
We'll talk about it at the end.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And by the way, obviously spoilers.
Yeah.
That needs to be mentioned at the start of any Game of Thrones podcast. If you have not seen the most recent episode 3 of Game of Thrones, do not listen anymore to this podcast. Turn it off. Go watch the show and come back and listen to us be wrong about everything. All right, Allison, you want to go ahead and get into the plot?
Sure. So we're not going to go like super scene by scene since this was a long one, but we have a few things we wanted to talk about. Of course, we need to touch on Mr. Bran actually being wheeled this time.
Yeah, we actually saw him. I think the producers of the show heard our complaints about him just magically showing up, so they weren't originally going to include that scene of him being wheeled, but yeah, I thought that...
give the fans what they want!
Yeah, seriously. So, yeah, he actually had to get around someplace, and his wheelchair had surprisingly good shocks.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, I can't believe that it was able to...
like some pretty smooth sailing there.
Yeah, he wasn't like bouncing all around like you'd think he would.
Through the snow and everything.
Yeah, rocks and stuff, but
yeah.
Anyway.
So then, a lot of other stuff happens to set it up, but we're going to go straight to where, how do you even say her name? Melisandre?
I don't know. She's the...
We call her the Fire Witch.
She's the... Yeah, Fire Witch, I guess.
So we're just going to call her Fire Witch.
Yeah, I think up until this part of the show, she hasn't really been introduced too much. I don't remember seeing her in any of the first 2 episodes. I kind of remember her
first 2 seasons.
No.
Episodes.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember her at all.
Yeah, I don't think she showed up. So, like, we as someone who hasn't seen the previous...
Had no idea who she was.
Yeah, we just, she came and she
just showed up.
She just showed up and lit everybody's swords on fire.
Yeah,
so that was
lightsabers
pretty neat.
For all.
Yeah, everybody got lightsabers. A lot of good that did them.
Yeah, right?
But she basically gave, like, everybody in the front lines who was practically being sacrificed, she gave them all these fire swords and they went out and they just kind of got their asses kicked.
Yeah.
And, yeah, that was kind of the initial part of this battle in this pretty battle-intense episode.
Yeah. They just ran right into it.
They just ran in. They ran into the storm, and then
You never saw them again.
You never saw them again, so you can assume that, the storm played a huge role in this episode. A lot of the scenes took place inside the storm. It's kind of hard to tell what was going on, but we did our best, so let's keep going. What's next?
The meaningful stare, of course, between the Fire Witch and Arya. So obviously there's something there.
There's something important.
Yeah, something there. So we just kind of thought that was important.
Yeah.
We kind of move on to, Brienne says, stand your ground. They start to really get into all of the fighting. But Arya gives Sansa a weapon while she's in the crypt and tells her
when she's about to go to the crypt.
Yeah, when she's about to go into the crypt. And Sansa says, but I don't know how to use this. How do you get to where you are and not know how to use a weapon?
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, that does seem silly. Like how much death she's seen.
Yeah, and you don't know what to do with it, and Arya just says, stick him with the pointy end.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And then Sam almost dies, but is saved by the character that we call Little Beardy.
He does have a beard. I mean, a lot of characters on this show have a beard, but his beard's pretty impressive. But it's not as impressive.
It's not beardy level.
As beardy, so we call him little beardy. Yeah.
So he saves Sam, but then in turn,
he gets killed.
Is killed.
Yeah.
So he's our first significant death.
Yeah. We were originally going to do a death count and try to do every time we see a death on screen, we mark it down. But I knew with going into this episode that was not going to be possible. So we only tallied the major deaths of major characters that we knew. So yeah, he was the first one in this episode.
Mm-hmm. So the plan was, I guess, for the dragons to light those trenches, and they were going to signal it with the big fire sticks. And so they're trying to signal it, but they can't see through the storm to know to light the trenches. So they're trying to figure out how to get them to light.
Yeah. I think that I guess we could talk about this now. Like, the dragons were surprisingly useless in this episode. It really was disappointing how, like, they have these awesome dragons to use to fight and stuff, but the storm, they use the plot device of the storm kind of blinding the dragons. And there was a little bit of dragon on dragon fight scene, but besides that, it's like they could have used their dragons in such a smarter way. I feel like they spent their time in the blinded in the storm looking for the Night King when they knew he was coming to them. So it's like, why don't just stand your ground and just plow down the waves, the waves of things that are coming at them. Just like have the dragons stand there and just blow fire on them. But
good point.
that didn't end up happening, and so that was disappointing. Like I said, just the dragons and John, and I mentioned this while we were watching it too. Like, what was the point of having John and Danny actually riding the dragons? Because they just seemed to be a liability. They didn't actually, I don't think they were steering the dragons.
No.
I think that at one point Danny says, something along the lines of fire, and then he we'll get to that later, but I can assume the dragon can breathe fire without being commanded to do so.
Well, I mean, at least I'm going to call him the Ice King. I know that's not what he's called. It's all right.
That's Adventure Time.
Bear with me. I mean, the Ice King is on his dragon, but then he does get off, and the dragon goes on to keep doing stuff.
Yeah,
so it's not
obvious that the dragons can do things on their own. So it's like, why not have these incredible fighting machines in the air, just taking shots at each other, and then have John and Danny on the ground doing something else, something more important. But anyway, moving along.
So anyway, the light trenches, they needed to light them, so that's where Fire Witch comes in. You guys are all going to hate me after listening to this.
Yeah,
I know it.
Everybody knows who you're talking about, Fire Witch.
Fire Witch and Ice King.
Yep.
Here we go. My next point is Bran turns into a raven or whatever, but he doesn't actually turn into it. No. He just anamorphs.
Yeah, that's turning into anamorphs.
Shit.
No, but we all know what you mean. He kind of, his eyes go into the back of his head, and he turns into a raven. And I thought there would actually be a point to that. That never really pays off.
There probably is a point, but I don't know what the hell it is.
No, he turned into a raven and he flew off, and then
I don't even know what happened with those birds.
No, nothing at all. So maybe it'll come back later in the later seasons, like what he actually did in the later episodes, what he actually did. Yeah. But for now, it's like he just they used it as a plot device for him to just
zone out
while all this stuff was happening around him.
Defending him.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay, so I probably should talk about that. The bad guys.
Yeah, so they basically are they're trying to they get Fire Witch gets the trenches lit, and so they think they are able to hold the bad guys off for a while. The zombies, whatever you want to call them. I think they have a real name, but who cares? And then all of a sudden, the zombies just start killing themselves on the trenches to make basically a bridge
so that the other guys can get over.
Yep. And so that's when shit really starts to go down. They climb the walls and they start
getting into everything.
Yeah. It's pretty bad. Things are just going from bad to worse. But
This is where I had that because Arya starts to use her
special weapon that they made a big deal about in the first 2 episodes.
But she only uses it for like a hot minute and shish kebabs a few guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was still pretty cool. Mm-hmm. And then you had a theory about the big giant that came through.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure in the last season, they had a friendly guy who was a giant. He was like the last remaining giant, and they used him to take back Winterfell. I think I remember reading that or like reading about it when it came out last year, I guess.
Yeah.
But then he ended up dying, and so it's fair to say that the Ice King brought him back. This giant back, and so now the bad guys have a giant on their side, and he hits that little girl who's in the fight for some reason. She said, I'm pretty sure in the last episode, she said she was going to protect...
No, that was the other little girl.
A different little girl. Okay. So yeah, this little girl gets her shit kicked out of her by this giant. And then, probably there's only 2 times in this episode where we jumped out of our chairs, like with excitement. And this was the first time. Yeah. The giant grabs the little girl.
You can hear.
He grabs her and he's bringing her up to his mouth and he's crushing her and she has blood coming out of her mouth. And as a parent of a little girl, that's so hard to watch.
It was.
But then at the very last second, when you think he's gonna bite her head off, she takes her dragon glass and just stabs it in his eye.
Right in the eye.
And just kills it. Yeah, which was really like we jumped out of our chair, like really? Hell yeah, like really, really excited. But then obviously she died, which was really sad. But she died,
fighting.
Yeah, one of the coolest ways that a little girl can die, honestly.
Badass.
Yeah, she was pretty badass. That's
the
theme of this episode is little girls are badass. Basically, don't fuck with little girls. But
that's our second meaningful death.
Yep. So,
we do so Hound kind of is hiding a little bit through the episode, and then
he starts off fighting. He realizes how futile it is, so he's like not doing, like he just gives up. But then he sees Arya.
Well, that's when his eye patch guy is like, oh, we need to go fight or whatever, blah, blah, blah.
And he's like, it's useless, and then the eye patch guy's like, tell that to her. Tell that to her.
Arya fighting.
Yeah, and so that's when the Hound rallies and starts, getting back into it. Anyway.
And so he does end up saving her.
Yeah, there's this really... It's really weird because... Arya's kicking ass. She's using this weapon to kill all these zombies, and then she gets trapped somehow in like a library.
She gets hit in the head, remember?
Yes, she does. And then she gets trapped in this like library.
Well, I think she gets hit in the head and she goes inside to try to like find some reprieve.
Yeah.
When she ends up in the library,
stuck with a bunch of zombies, and you think she would just kill all the zombies because she just was doing it outside.
Yeah, does she have her weapon?
I think so, because she ends up... I don't know, maybe not. I feel like she ends up using it... She had
that knife, because she used it when she came out and got that woman.
Yeah, she was using it.
She did at least have later. A knife.
Yeah, for sure. So, I don't know, maybe she was just playing it safe, but...
Well, also, she got hit in the head pretty hard.
Yeah, maybe she was just...
they kind of showed that, like, her vision was off, so...
Yeah, that's true. Anyway, she eventually narrowly escapes from all of them, and that's when the Hound runs into her, and they are fighting. The Hound and the Eye Patch guy, and that's when Eye Patch guy dies.
So he's our third meaningful death.
Mm-hmm.
And then Arya and the Fire Witch talk. There's that little line about all of the different colored eyes dying, so blue eyes.
Yeah, I think
green eyes.
I think that probably earlier on in the season they had a run in, and what it makes it seem from like this episode, she told her like a prophecy that you're gonna be killed, like you're gonna put many men to sleep, brown eyes, green eyes, and then she says blue eyes, and that went right over my head. I was like, blue eyes, what does she mean by that? And Allison, you were like, doesn't the Ice King have blue eyes? And I was like, oh shit, he does. And it's funny because as soon as that went into my head, it went right out of my head. I was like, oh shit, Arya's gonna be the one to kill the Ice King.
And then you forget.
And then I forget completely. And so we'll get into that scene later on. But spoiler, Arya kills the Ice King. Anyway, but what's next?
And then, so the Ice King gets knocked off of his dragon, and Dany's dragon blows fire at him, which does absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that was part of the plan, was hoping that the fire, like, to lure the Ice King to Bran, use the dragon to, spit fire at him, hope that kills him. It didn't kill him.
Nope, not at all.
So that
not
was
even a little bit.
It didn't even scratch him. He didn't. Nope. He kind of gave this shitty little smirk.
Yep.
But then Jon tries to run at him.
Yeah.
But then he just brings back everybody from the dead.
Yeah. And seriously, at this point of the episode, I was like, I'm done watching, because what the fuck am I watching?
Yeah, it's not worth, like, you need to have a villain who has some kind of weakness.
Yeah.
And obviously he ends up having one, but, like, up until this point, it's like, if he can just raise people back from the dead, how the hell are they going to win this fight?
They have to kill these people, then they have to kill them again, plus more people with less people. I'm like, this is not, like, I don't want to watch this.
Yeah, in order to make your story compelling, you have to have, like, a vulnerable hero and a vulnerable villain that they're going against. And it just seems at this point that our heroes are completely vulnerable, and our villain is completely invulnerable. And so that makes it kind of boring, because it's like a Deus Ex Machina thing where it's like, well, there's no reason they were supposed to win that, because they set this villain up as being undefeatable.
Exactly.
So it seems like cheating when they defeat him.
Yep.
And so that, that was kind of disappointing, that they went that route of, like, making it seem so insurmountable that Allison, you turned to me and you're like, what's the point of watching this anymore?
Yeah.
And I had to agree with you, because it's like, if you can't beat them, then what's the point of this?
And I'm sure that if I, like, would have started from the beginning, there would have been some kind of indication of how to defeat him, or that he was defeatable. Yeah. But from just watching 3 episodes, to me, it seemed like there was no way that anybody...
There was no realistic way.
Yeah.
And that's what's, like, annoying about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on.
Okay, so then we kind of move on to... Okay, so the Ice King is raising people from the dead, and so all of the women and children...
Oh, yeah. So they decide to put, like, their vulnerable in a crypt. It's like, guys, you're about to fight an army of the dead who can bring people back from the dead. Why the hell are you putting them in the crypt? That makes zero sense. Yeah. Maybe there's some sort of fantasy reason why they thought that would be safe, but
there isn't.
It wasn't. And also, so Sansa and Tyrion and the eunuch and all of those guys are down there, and little kids and women, and they just start, falling one by one, and so that was shitty. And then Jon is stuck in the middle by himself with all of these zombies that just came back from the dead. It's like, okay, well, he's a goner, obviously.
Right.
But he's able to fight him off somehow. It's like, how can he take out all of these? Like, why wasn't he on the ground to begin with if he is so good at battling them?
Right.
It's like, it just seemed like at the beginning there's a lot of really cool medieval strategy stuff, and then all that goes out the window, and it just seems like they made some really stupid decisions on, like, who was gonna be where. But anyway.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then we have that really sentimental music and
that's when you knew that people are going to start dying. Yeah.
Well, that was between Sansa and Tyrion specifically.
So we looked at each other. We're like, oh my gosh, they're going to die. Yeah.
That was a big thing.
I would not have seen that coming, but they did not.
They had a really special moment.
Yes.
And then it goes into, like, the musical montage of, like, did these people die or didn't they die?
Yeah.
Did Lady Brienne die or Sir Brienne die? Did Sam die?
I don't know. It was very close. They, like, got cut a few times, and it kept, like you said, a montage of, like...
Where's Jamie in all of this?
Oh, he was with Brienne.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't even... I don't
Jamie
know. It was
Brienne.
too dark. I didn't see anything.
A lot of it was really dark, so it was kind of hard to see, but...
And then we get to, the biggest parts. The king starts coming for Bran. And, all before that, Theon is just fighting off these guys and fighting off
he's got his bow and arrow. He's just picking them off.
Yeah.
And he has a really sweet moment with Bran before Bran goes all behind the eyes, where he basically, I don't know all of Theon's backstory, but I know that he did some stuff that was not good.
Mm-hmm.
And so Bran kind of absolves him from that because he knows that Theon is now, on the right path, defending him with his life. And so that was cool.
Yeah.
Just to see Theon doing the right thing.
Right. Well, and that's the moment where Bran says, you're a good man.
Yeah.
And, I think that's all anybody wants to hear before they die is that you're a good person.
You're a good man. It's almost like Bran was saying, okay, go.
You can die now.
Yeah, go die, basically. Yeah. Because that's what happens. Theon...
what else is he going to do? It's him.
Yeah, he's out of arrows.
King, all the bad guys.
He's out of arrows. All the bad guys are brought back to life. The Ice King's walking up. So Theon does what he... one last act of bravery.
Yeah.
And he charges the Night King with a spear, and the Night King stops him, obviously, and snaps the spear and jams it in Theon, and Theon dies pretty unceremoniously, unfortunately. But, so that was pretty sad, but...
And then the slow-mo moments of the king walking up to Bran.
Yeah.
And he goes, behind his shoulder to grab his spear, right?
Yeah, his, little sword, his dagger that he's going to use to kill Bran, obviously.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Then Arya appears out of nowhere, but also, the Ice King had all of those dead people with him.
Yeah. So Arya is known for being the silent assassin that can go anywhere undetected. She's little and she's crafty. And so, Arya appears out of nowhere. And there's actually a scene where one of the Ice King's general dudes turns his head, but at that point it's too late. Arya comes out of the shadows and jumps out, and the Ice King turns around and grabs her, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And I grabbed Allison. I was like, oh no.
I know. I was not her!
Yeah, he got her by the throat, and you're like, well, what the heck? Yeah, that's it. This sucks. And Arya drops the knife with one hand that the Ice King's holding, and she grabs it with the other and stabs him. And he just turns to...
Epic.
It was we screamed. We're like, hell yeah! I'm sure all of you guys did too.
Yeah.
But that was the second time we jumped out of our seats. So that was pretty sweet. But that being said, it was really cool what Arya did, but the Night King has been the main villain of this show for so long, and then he just dies.
That's it.
And it's not slow-mo or anything. She just stabs him, and
that's it. He turns into ice.
Yeah, and he just evaporates.
Doesn't even turn into ice. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
the ice cubes.
Once again, kind of unceremonial, and so that was kind of disappointing, a little anticlimactic, but still cool that he's dead. And so since he died, all the other bad guys die. That's pretty convenient. But that was established in the show in the last episode that if they cut him down,
everybody else.
Yeah.
So Theon is our third meaningful.
I think fourth.
Fourth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sir. What's his name? Sir Jorah.
Jorah, yeah.
Sir Jorah dies.
Yeah, so
he was with Dany.
So Dany gets knocked off her dragon because her dragon gets attacked, and so she gets knocked off, and all of these zombies are about to come kill her. And then Sir Jorah comes out of nowhere and starts killing him. But as he's doing so, he's getting stabbed and cut, and you know that this is pretty much it for him. It's like Sean Bean in the first Lord of the Rings movie, where he's just taking out as many orcs as possible. But you just know that he's a goner. And so as soon as Arya kills the Night King, he kind of once he knows that Dany is safe, he goes down and then dies. So he's our fifth and final death of the episode.
Well, no, because then we have the Fire Witch
Oh, I guess. But
I think
we didn't
she's
really
important. I think she's important. I like her.
Yeah.
She goes and she takes her choker off and then kind of wilts in the wind. And Sir Devos, watches.
Yeah, I guess that's true. She does
yeah,
die. And which they foreshadowed because she said,
I'll be dead before the dawn.
No reason to execute me. I'll be dead before the dawn.
Yeah.
So I'm sure
and
there's
she says that to Sir Davos, right?
Yeah, she does. So I'm sure there's some important backstory behind all that. We don't know. We don't care. So,
but it reminds me of the story of the woman with the green choker or whatever.
She has a ribbon.
Yeah, the green ribbon around her neck.
Has the green ribbon, and
she goes through her life. Yeah. And don't ever remove my ribbon or whatever. And she's on her deathbed, and he takes the ribbon off, and her head falls off. There's going to be like 3 other people in our audience who knows what we're talking about right now. But anyway, so that's pretty much the episode. They finally, after years of being scared that winter is coming, winter now has come and they've defeated it. So, bring on spring.
Yeah, pretty important episode. I would say probably the most important one we've seen so far.
Our predictions sucked. By the way.
We got 0 predictions right. None of the people we thought were gonna die. Ended up dying, but there was some pretty
6 important deaths.
6 important deaths.
0 boobs.
0 boobs. I think that the death count ended up being a lot lower than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
They seemed to set it up on this episode that there was going to be, a lot of bloodshed. But, so the next big fight is going to be with Cersei. So
that bitch.
Yeah, we'll see what happens in the next few episodes. But what'd you think of the episode overall?
I liked it.
Yeah.
I think I think there are a lot of moments that were just like, how is that happening?
Yeah.
How is that person there?
Right.
Like they were so far away from the castle at points. When Dany's out there, how did Sir Davos just
know that she was there,
appear at the right time, just kind of that.
There was a lot of that,
Which, like, if I was a fan, I wouldn't care because I'd be like, "Oh, this is great! This is so exciting!" This is whatever. But like me just being like, analyzing it or whatever, I was like, "But how did that happen?"
Yeah, for sure.
But I liked it. There were some really good redeeming points. When you start to feel that pit of despair and like you really can't do anything anymore. I mean, I always know that like when I start to feel like that, something good is gonna happen.
You'd hope. In this show, you never know.
This is true.
But I was pleasantly surprised with how happy the ending ended up being. There was, relatively low number of deaths, and I was pretty happy with the episode. I'm excited. I'm still excited for the rest of the season because there's still, even though this was the main conflict, they set up for this main conflict, I'm glad they didn't drag this conflict out multiple episodes. That would have been horrible. I do not want to have to wait another week going, what are they going to do about the Ice King?
Right, exactly.
So that was really nice to get that all wrapped up.
Thanks for listening to Parents of Dragons. I hope you'll join us next week. And as usual, if there's anything that we got wrong, don't tell us because we don't care. Thanks. Bye.